Start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Quite see it. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mr. Hodge, would you take the roll, please?
Mr. Harding. Mr. Hodge here. Mr. Parker.
Here.
Mr. Stonestreet. Mr. Tully.
Here.
Mr. Stewart's.
Here.
We have a quorum.
All right. We have the next agenda item is action on February 3, 2022 minutes. Has everyone had an opportunity to review those minutes?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes as presented for the February 3rd meeting.
I'll second that.
Motion has been made, seconded to accept the minutes of the February 3, 2022 meeting. I'll note that Mr. Harding is present as well. For the record, all in favor of approving the February 3, 2022 minutes? Say aye.
Aye.
4 ayes, the minutes are approved. I'll now open the public hearing. All comments should be directed to the Board of Zoning Appeals. Please request to be recognized by the President or the Board prior to public comment. Prior to making comments, please step to the microphone and stand and state your name and address and be sworn in. The Board will hear testimony from each applicant and any expert witness or witnesses. Each speaker from the public will be allowed to speak once, and their comment time will be limited. The public hearing is held to receive comments. It is not a forum for debate. The next agenda item is Lincolnshire LLC Camping World Special Permit Request. Does anyone have any conflicts? Hearing none, turn to you.
FRHP Lincolnshire LLC has submitted a special permit for new construction request. The applicant proposes to construct Camping World, an automobile, boats, and recreational vehicle sales and service use in a C2 high-density commercial district on property located off North Poplar Fork Road in Hurricane, tax map 213, parcel part of 32. For your convenience, full copies of the county's adopted comprehensive plan, US 35 corridor management plan, and Tays Valley land use plan are located at the President's seat. Articles 150, 650, 1100, 1150, 1200, 1250, 1300, 1500, and 2100 of the zoning ordinance are the main provisions by which tonight's special permit request will be heard. Tonight's definitions are retail business, establishments engaged in selling goods or merchandise to the public for personal or household consumption and rendering services incidental to the sale of such goods. Commercial business, any wholesale, retail, or service business activity established to carry on trade for a profit. Development, any man-made change to improved or unimproved real estate, including but not limited to buildings or other structures, mining, dredging, filling, grading, paving, excavation, or drilling operations or subdivision of land. Recreational vehicle, a motorhome, travel trailer, truck camper, or camping trailer with or without motive power designed for human habitation for temporary or recreational occupancy. Travel trailer, a temporary mobile dwelling for travel, recreation, or vacation use. Units may include travel trailers, pickup campers, converted buses, tent trailers, or similar devices. Use, any purpose for which a building or other structure of a tract of land may be maintained or occupied, or any activity, occupation, business, or operation carried on in a building or other structure or on a tract of land. And finally, special exception use, a use that meets the intents and purposes of the zoning district in which the use is situated, but which requires the review and approval of the Board of Zoning Appeals in order to ensure that any possible adverse impacts on adjacent uses, structures, or public services and facilities will be mitigated. It is the intent of the C2 high-density commercial district to provide for a wide range of commercial uses, whose nature of business requires convenient automobile and truck access. Such uses must be accessible to the county as well as the entire region and must be planned in a way to promote and protect commercial and working areas. It is the intent of special permit uses to provide for certain uses which shall be permitted only if adequate conditions exist or can be imposed that will make such uses compatible with the purposes of this ordinance and the Putnam County Comprehensive Plan. The special permit procedure shall provide for some measure of individualized judgment and the imposing of conditions on certain uses in order to make them compatible with uses in the surrounding area. It is further intended that the special permit, through a site plan process, shall provide a method whereby it can be determined whether or not a use would cause any damage, hazard, nuisance, or other detriment to the persons or property in the vicinity. And on to the facts. On December 2nd, 2021, FRHP Lincolnshire submitted a permit application and disclosure statement to develop Camping World. See Attachment A. In November 2016, the Putnam County Commission rezoned the subject property from a R1 single-family residential district to a C2 high-density commercial district. A current zoning map is included as Attachment B. In its 30.27 acre entirety, the majority of the parcel is directly surrounded by existing undisturbed woodlands. Parcel 14 is 62.406 acres, and parcel 32.3 is 42.12 acres. Together, these parcels equal 104.526 acres, and both are zoned R1. In addition to the woodland area, the following also frame parcel 32. Parcel 33 is a 1.392 acre property with a single-family home. The dwelling is approximately 260 feet away from the proposed Camping World building. Parcel 33 was also rezoned from R1 to C2 in November 2016. Parcel 33.1 is a 2-acre property with a single-family home, which is zoned R1. This dwelling is approximately 550 feet away from the proposed Camping World building. Parcel 32.1 is a 1.911 acre property zoned R1 and contains a single-family home, which is used for rental, along with a commercial personal storage facility. The dwelling is approximately 400 feet from the proposed Camping World building. Parcel 32.2 is a 2.126 acre property with an AEP station and is zoned R1. Parcel 59.4 is a 3.74 acre property with a gas station and convenience store. The parcel is zoned C2. Parcel 32 is currently a 30.27 acre tract. If special permit approval is granted, Camping World proposes to create and purchase a 10.02 acres of the original tract. Attachment B delineates the proposed 10.02 acre tract by use of hatch mark. The 10.02 acres does not currently exist as an individual, separate, or deeded tract of land. Camping World proposes to purchase 654.42 feet of land fronting Poplar Fork Road. The current owner will retain 60 feet of land fronting Route 32 at the eastern boundary as access to the remaining 20.25 acres. Once created, the 10.02 acre Camping World property will be fully adjacent to undeveloped and mostly woodland C2 property, except parcel 32.1 as described above. The proposed Camping World site is a rolling hillside. Finished construction of the site will have a lowest ground elevation near Poplar Poplar Fork Road at 679 feet and a high elevation of 775 feet within the 10.02 acres. The structure's finished floor elevation will be at 706.5 feet, which is 27 feet higher than the lowest elevation near Poplar Fork. An architectural depiction of the proposed Camping World building exterior and 2 reduced copies of the site layout plan are included as Attachment C. Also, the full-size plan is there in front of you. The second copy of the site layout plan has been color-coded for visual effect. The structure is a pre-engineered metal building extended with manufactured stone and a metal roof. An old barn exists at the southeast corner of the site. This structure is to be demolished, and you can see it in the purple shaded area in Attachment C. The newly proposed structure will be 100.3 feet in width by 301.1 feet in length and located approximately 300 feet from North Poplar Fork Road. The structure will total 30,207 square feet and include 13,148 square feet of service area with 12 service bay doors, 8,029 square feet of retail space, 4,641 square feet of office space, and 4,389 square feet of storage area. The structure will have 2 floors. The first floor totals 28,234 square feet, and the second floor totals 1,973 square feet. Maximum height of the structure will be 25 feet 6 inches. The service bay doors are 16 feet tall. The building footprint is bolded in Attachment C. All minimum setback requirements have been exceeded. Post-construction, 65% of the 10.02 acres will be covered in impervious surface. The C2 zoning district allows 100% impervious surface coverage. Camping World proposes a public retail parking area with 107 parking spaces. This includes 6 handicap spaces, and they're west of the structure. This number of parking spaces exceed the zoning ordinance minimum. Ends of parking aisles are bordered with raised and landscaped islands which conform to zoning criteria. This parking area is outlined in blue. The inventory lot with service bay area is located on the northeast and the south sides of the structure. See the outlined area in green. Raised islands, wheel barriers, and pavement delineation of individual parking spaces are not required in the inventory lot. The submitted plans delineate RV inventory orientation for representation purposes only. Service bay access, along with receipt, shipment of merchandise, and loading, unloading, will take place on premise within the inventory lot. Adequate space is provided so that all maneuvering, standing, loading, and unloading can be done entirely on site. The service bay openings are oriented away from existing residences. Reference the green outlined area. The service area will be for cosmetic work and replacement of parts. This site does not propose mechanical service or engine repair. A black 6-foot-tall chain link and ornamental fence with a sliding gate will be installed around the perimeter of the inventory lot. It is delineated by a red line. Service structures such as the dumpster, potable water spigot, sanitary dump station, and propane storage tank will be properly screened by an 8-foot-tall wooden privacy fence. A ground-mounted utility transformer is screened by concrete masonry unit walls. The zoning ordinance states service and loading areas should be screened from the view from a public street. Landscaped areas and walls should be used to decrease noise levels. These areas should be separated from public parking. Article 1300.10 allows for modifications to these screening requirements. Natural barriers, specific conditions unique to the land, Other features or adaptations which achieve screening intent may be considered. Topography can act as a natural screening device. Camping World also proposes to screen the south-facing service bays from the street with RV inventory, thus prohibiting the public's view from the service department bay doors. It is the developer's intent to have as much inventory as possible visible from the frontage road. The 10.02 acre site shares a southwest boundary with property that houses a single-family home used for rental. Camping World proposes to erect 420 linear feet of 6-foot-tall wooden privacy fence, plant 27 6-feet-tall Murray cypress evergreen trees, and plant 27 2-feet-tall Japanese holly evergreen shrubs at the shared boundary for buffer and screening purposes. The applicant's landscape plan is included as attachment D in your packets. Newly planted sod, trees, and shrubs, plus the 6-feet-tall wooden privacy fence are colored for visual effect. Stormwater detention is required for the proposed development. Camping World submitted the site grading plan. It's included as attachment E. The proposed stormwater drainage and detention facility is colored in orange. A 45,612 cubic foot detention pond will be constructed in the south portion of the parcel. The detention pond is designed to detain volumes based on the 10-year storm event with a concrete overflow spillway to release water if a rainfall event exceeds the required storm event. The outlet control structure designed from the pond includes the use of a vertical orifice, grate, a sharp crested weir box, and an outlet pipe to reduce the flow rate of stormwater from the site below pre-development conditions. The stormwater from the detention pond will outlet into the West Virginia Division of Highways right-of-way. A photometrics plan has been submitted for exterior site lighting. The plan indicates minimal light spillage at property boundaries. The proposal exceeds minimum criteria of the zoning ordinance. Public water and sewer service will be provided by Putnam PSD. To date, sewer is not currently available. However, Putnam PSD is actively in the process of a mainline sewer extension along North Poplar Fork Road. The extension is on course to be completed in the autumn and will service Camping World. The provider has reviewed Camping World's individual water and sewer plans. Putnam PSD finds these plans acceptable, and there's correspondence from them in attachment F. An improved NPDES general permit in regard to sediment and erosion control for stormwater associated with construction activity from the West Virginia Department of Environmental Protection has not been submitted. Camping World sent a February 7 electronic submission to apply for this permit and is working together with DEP for approval. A representative from Camping World has signed a conditional approval agreement offered by the Putnam County Planning Commission. This agreement is included in your packet as attachment G. An approved West Virginia Division of Highways encroachment permit for construction within the West Virginia Division of Highways right-of-way has not been submitted. Camping World has made application for this permit and is actively working through the DOH process for approval. It is surmised that a traffic impact study will not be required. Inventory campers will not be delivered by semi-trucks, but by medium-duty, full-size passenger trucks with trailering. A representative from Camping World has signed the conditional approval agreement offered by the Putnam County Planning Commission. Again, that's in attachment G. The applicant's engineer developed an intersection exhibit for the West Virginia Route 34 and North Poplar Fork Road intersection, which tracks a turning path of a passenger truck pulling a camper trailer with a combined overall length of 53 feet. The exhibit is in attachment H. On behalf of Camping World, Philip Lewis Engineering provided the following estimated traffic counts for the site. Anticipated number of employees on site each day, 15 to 20. Daily trip-ins for employees on site each day, 60 to 80. Anticipated number of customers on site each day, 15 to 20. daily trip-ins for customers, 30 to 40, and total vehicular daily trip-ins, 90 to 120. The applicant's engineer submitted March 22 correspondence detailing the status of the pending DOH and MPDES permits. That is in attachment I. A sign permit application and sign plan have been submitted for this project. Camping World is requesting an 80-square-foot pole sign that's 20 foot in height be located near the entrance at their site. No wall signage has been requested. These documents are in attachment J. The sign proposal is in compliance with the zoning ordinance. This site will employ approximately 50 or 40 individuals. Operating hours are Monday through Saturday, 9 a.m. to 7 p.m., and Sunday, 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. All deliveries will take place during normal business hours. The property is not in FEMA's 100-year floodplain. This commercial development has been reviewed by Putnam County's contract engineer. Mr. McCoy recommends approval of the project pending the DOH permit and DEP permit. If they are adequately addressed, either via issuance or signature of the conditional permit agreement mentioned above in facts number 20 and 21. Again, the agreement is in attachment G. Mr. McCoy's approval correspondence is in attachment K. On February 25th, site photographs and aerial photography is included as attachment L. On behalf of the applicant, Philip Lewis has submitted a letter to the board and a written response to Article 1100.05 in the zoning ordinance. Both items are included as attachment N, and that is where your traffic counts came from, that correspondence. Article 1100.01 references the Putnam County Comprehensive Plan. Attachment N is Chapter 5 of the county's plan, and again, the full document is at the president's seat. No variances have been requested, and to date, no official public comments or questions have been received. There was a gentleman in our office today. He said that he would be present and speak tonight, make a comment about the Route 34 intersection. The special permit request was advertised in the Hurricane Breeze on March 10th, 2022. On March 9th, a notice of public hearing was mailed to abutting landowners within 250 feet. And on March 21, a notice of public hearing was placed on site. As always, the last sheet in your packet is the worksheet that you can use to help make your decision. And myself or Mr. McCoy are available for any questions if you have them.
Anyone have any questions? All right. Thank you. Would the applicant like to speak? If you would please step to your mic and be sworn in, and then state your name and address.
Okay.
You solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes, ma'am.
And your name?
Philip Lewis. Philip Lewis Engineering. Sure. I just wanted to follow up on a few points. By the way, glad to be here. Glad the weather's better than it was on January the 4th when we came and slid down the hill walking the site. But anyway, in the snow. But I did want to make a few key points. I appreciate the presentation. The dealership, we've worked with Camping World for several years now, and we've developed with them the whole design team, architect, mechanical, electrical, plumbing, engineers, everybody's underneath my umbrella on these projects. And they're all design build projects we do. We've probably got projects going in 15 to 20 states right now around the country. They're a very well high-end dealership, the very particular ownership group. They were very particular. It took us a while to get a prototype that they approved. We've just finished the first two in Lincoln, Nebraska and Cheyenne, Wyoming. Cities were very welcoming and glad to have us there. And at any rate, it's a good-looking dealership, And one thing that was not mentioned that I will mention that's a very noted item that the owner, Marcus Lemonis of Camping World and Good Sam's Club, is they put a 135-foot flagpole at all their dealerships. And the actual flag is about the size of a semi-truck, and it's well lit. It's going to be a great feature if we end up here going down the interstate. You'll see it on the mountainside over there. So very well maintained, very clean, very much aesthetically worried about the aesthetics of the dealership and maintaining them. There will be no, I do want to point out, all of the products on their site will consist of, they don't sell pickup truck campers. They simply sell pull-behind travel trailers, fifth-wheel trailers, which are usually pulled with a dually pickup or something similar, and some self-contained motorized RV units. And their inventory is clean, and if they have any used units, you don't know that they're not new. I've been to, obviously, tons of their places around the country. The units are transported that are not self-driven to all of their facilities all over the country, and not just Camping World. It's kind of created a cottage industry called hot shotting. So they do take the pickup trucks, usually dualies, and they pull them to the various locations. That's how they're delivered. Nothing is delivered by semi-truck, And so, service-wise, they do no motor work, no mechanical work. It's strictly aesthetic work. If you need an awning fixed, you have to switch out a hot water heater, anything along those lines. That's what they do as far as service. They don't generate grease and no motorized mechanics on site doing any of that work. That's not the business that they're in. I did want to also comment on one other item. The West Virginia Department of Transportation, I believe that's the correct for their acronym, actually received a call just this afternoon from the district engineer, Mr. Bill Dorsey. I believe that's his last name. We were down to a couple of minor comments that we've got to get back. We've worked through. He's the one that wrote the email saying he didn't see any reason beyond what we had already put together for a traffic study at the main intersection down the road, or where you turn in off of the frontage road of the interstate. He's the one that provided that email. So we've got to get a couple more items to him, and we should have their approval, I would say, within the next 2 weeks. And the environmental, it just takes what time it takes. Everything's fully submitted. It's been submitted. And their course, and this is all over the country, including Arkansas, they'll tell you it could be 1 month to 4 months sometimes to get those approved. But we've been a very helpful person. One of my engineers on staff has been in constant communication with them, as we are with all our projects around the country and a ton of projects. We're from Arkansas, by the way. So hello from the land of the Razorbacks that just got put out of the tournament by Duke. But anyway, we're dealing with ADEQ in Arkansas and these around the country, and they all run about 1 to 4 months in getting approval. So we're on track for that. We've provided everything that's been asked for all the approving agencies that we're aware of. So traffic counts that we're showing are based on, they're probably actually a little conservative because we take an average size dealership around the country, and that's where we come up with these numbers. We don't just grab them out of the air. There is a functional, operational, and the other gentleman that's with me tonight, he's been involved with them longer than I have around the country, so he's way more familiar with their operations even than I am. So, but we've been affiliated for about 3.5, 4 years with Camping World. Great client, first class, the way they do things. Very demanding, but that's okay. They're very good to us, and they keep us busy, and they want first class when they go in. But that's I just wanted to mention those highlights, and unless anybody had any questions for me. I don't know how this works. I don't know if you ask questions. And
Some folks may. Does anyone have any questions for Mr. Lewis?
I've got a couple.
Yes, sir.
I've noticed on your parking layout, you don't have any tandem parking. If somebody pull their trailer and their truck in there to go in and get some parts or pieces out of your store, on your parking lots, you're not showing any area to park a tandem, like vehicle trailer. There's no place to park them. And the last thing I want is to pull them back out on the road. Now,
In here, you have to stay within your microphone.
you do this to me all the time. Okay, And as you can see, there's no place to park a trailer and a vehicle out in front of the building. And the last thing I want is somebody, I can't park in here and then pull back out on the road and park on the berm of the road.
Yes, sir.
I mean, it's not a code, but I mean,
No, and we, in the customer, part, normally we do provide the pull-through like you're speaking of. So if someone wants to come in, because the other thing I want to mention, I'm not going to come back to your question.
okay,
Because it's important. But the retail portion of this is basically, it's kind of like a Walmart for RV and camper supplies, if you've ever been in one. So anything you need for your RV, you can typically get there. They try to accommodate that. And so if someone's traveling, they can pull in and get some parts.
okay,
There's a courtesy island out in front where they dump and fill up with water. That's provided. Typically, we have a pull through, so it's not a traffic nightmare getting in and getting out. Having grown up with parents who love RVing, I do a lot of work, and I tell them I don't care if you're RV again. Anyway, we did a lot of that growing up, but it's important because I was the one getting out, hooking the thing up with my brother,
Yeah.
right? So I know what you're speaking of. But Jose, we're not showing the pull throughs on this one.
It should be, by the time we get through it, it'll be there.
It'll be there, because that's critical, that's part of their business model.
Okay.
They're customer service oriented, sir, so that will be provided.
well, like I say, I just wanted to make
No, I
sure.
appreciate
Yeah,
it.
I don't want anybody pulling back out on the road and
no,
parking
no,
on the
sir.
berm of the road.
No, sir, nor do they, and they typically, the number of customers like regular vehicle parking, I've never been to one, even the busiest one in the nation, or the second busiest, his name is in North Little Rock, Arkansas. We're very familiar with it, we've done a bunch of work on it. They've got way more passenger cars than they ever
Okay.
see full. So we can sacrifice some of those and pull through. And I think
Okay.
we're well above the code on requirements.
You are.
I was also looking over
Yes, sir.
over your drainage and stuff like
Yes,
that.
sir.
Is there any existing creeks or streams or any drainage area that you're going to do away with?
There is which you have thousands and thousands looking out from the airplane flying this morning, draws through the mountains, and there is a draw
Right.
through the property. But
Okay,
it's not an active running stream, it's a drainage, what I call a drainage swell.
Well-
Back out. Yes, sir.
in West Virginia, if there's water running through it at any time,
I'm sorry, what?
in West Virginia, Army Corps of Engineers, if there's any water running through it at any time, it's considered a navigable stream. And I just wanted to let you know about that so you can check with the Corps, and, because they can come back and stop you.
Yes, sir.
But I mean, there's water, if there's water flowing, it's going somewhere. So
Sure.
it's just nice to address that because of your neighbors and everything, you don't want water running on them.
Right, and we have provided, I appreciate that. And by the way, I worked for the Corps of Engineers for 8 years.
Well, you know what I'm talking about.
Before I started my business 22 years ago, I left them and
Okay.
started my business. But I will duly note it. And one thing, when you submit all this to the State Department, I apologize because we're doing stuff all over the country. I know Arkansas Department of Environmental Quality, the West Virginia Department of
DEP.
DEP.
And so that's part of, they check navigable, all those items.
Yeah.
Yes, sir, that's part of the checklist.
Okay, but presently you don't have an MPDS permit.
No, sir.
You're
but-
working, I understand you're working
No,
on
sir,
it.
we, for time constraints, by the time we got the 3-month go or through everything, those don't hurry up and get, but we are on track to have it. I'm not gonna hazard a guess the time frame. I don't think we're that far off, but I'd be lying to you, and I'm just where I tell the truth. So I'm not gonna lie and pretend like I know exactly when that's gonna occur.
Okay,
They fooled me before in a good way, they fooled me in a bad
Yeah.
way, not here, but around the country. So-
okay, thank you.
But duly noted, and thank you for that. Anyway.
Sir, what was your name?
Jose Alvarado.
I'm sorry?
Jose.
Jose, Jose Alderbot, Aldebot. Aldebot.
All right, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Does anyone have any other questions for Mr. Lewis?
Okay.
I have just a few.
Yes, sir.
How many Camping World projects have you worked on?
How many have I worked on at this point in time? I would say between, I don't know exact count, between 10 and 20 around the country. Yes, sir.
And you submitted, I think you signed it, a letter dated November 30, 2021, that addresses each of the Article 1100.05 general considerations for special use permits.
Yes, sir.
What did you, and those are your opinions, correct?
Yes.
What did you base those opinions upon?
May I pull that up and review that?
You can, it's part of Article, I'm sorry, Attachment M, I believe.
Okay, let me get to that, because again, I want to,
If it's helpful on this, it's page 40, page 40 of 50, towards the end.
I can get to it here. I see N. Oh, okay, so these are the A through H
Yes.
items, okay.
And I guess my question is your opinion on these things based on the, I think you said 10 or 15 Camping World projects you've worked on in the past?
Yes, sir, just in general, around the country, that's correct, including the one close to home in North Little Rock, Arkansas. But that's, I would say, yes, that's correct. And we've been doing work with them, like I told you, mentioned earlier, between 3.5 and 4 years, and have also done preliminary, I said 10 to 20, we've done preliminary around the country that haven't kicked off yet, brand new dealerships. I think we're up to close to 40 right now that we've gone in from Rhode Island all the way to Michigan to Las Vegas to Daytona Beach, Florida. So, which when we go in, we have to study every local code, what's going on, what's allowed, you know, et cetera, et cetera. So, but anyway, we are familiar.
Okay. What I'm getting at is you make these statements, but they're coming from a place of authority because you've seen these
Yes, sir,
before in your 10 or
absolutely.
15 other projects.
Absolutely. That is correct. And typically, we haven't been anywhere yet where we haven't interacted usually with the adjacent property owners or the current. Sometimes the current own the adjacent property and they're not buying all of it. So we've had those conversations. And as to, I know there's things as far as affecting land values, surrounding land values, things of that effect. Now, am I an appraiser and an expert on that? And do I have concrete where I can give you that number? No, I do not. Those could be pulled, I suppose, if we went back to the real estate division of Camping World, because they obviously study that before they go in an area. I don't know if they post in being there study that, because typically what happens is everything around them gets scooped up pretty quickly. We have seen that happen. So,
Does this project here in Putnam County present anything that's unique or different or more challenging than the other projects you've worked on for Camping World?
I think the primary challenge is probably the terrain, to be honest. We're in the mountains here.
Welcome to West Virginia.
Yes, sir. Again, it's beautiful. So we have mountains in Arkansas, though, but not as many as you guys do. So,
Those are all the questions I have.
yes, sir.
Any questions? Thank you very much. Do you know if anyone else, is anyone else going to speak on behalf of the applicant?
Do you want to say anything? No.
There are a number of other folks here. Does anyone else wish to speak? Anyone from the public wish to speak on this issue?
I'm TJ Summers. Oh, you want me to do the right hand first, or you want my name?
You solemnly swear affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes. TJ Summers with Liberty Square Shopping Center, opposite North Poplar Fork, where this project is. My main concern is making sure those vehicles can make proper movement turns in and out of North Poplar and not jam up in any way the intersection. The intersection exhibit that was shown in the attachments did not show a vehicle exiting North Poplar, heading south toward the interstate, only going in. So I don't know why that was omitted from the exhibit, but that's an important movement that needs to be addressed. It may be able to make it, may not, I don't know, but it's not on the exhibit. So that's a concern of mine with customers and a property across the street and a lot of traffic on 34. We have to ensure that that those movements are not impeded in any way with those vehicles going in or coming out of the intersection. And that's all I really have a concern about.
EJ,
Yes.
maybe we could ask whoever is responsible for this to tell us why that's not addressed. Maybe Melissa or someone? It seems very obvious to me that it's bypassed, it's overlooked, it's obvious that it's not there.
Then the question may be best answered by the Camping World Engineering Group.
I didn't hear you, but I assume Camping World did this drawing?
Yes, sir.
Maybe we could ask Camping World why it's not there. Why they didn't, they addressed turning in, but they didn't address coming out of Option 4, which is more important than turning in.
Let me first ask, does anybody have any questions of Mr. Summers?
I'm addressing Mr. Summers.
Oh, I'm sorry, I thought you were talking about your next line of questioning.
No, he brought it up, right?
Yes.
So I want to know why it's not addressed in this. It's very obvious. When I looked at this whole packet, I saw, wait a minute, why are they not going into 34 South?
Quick question.
Yes.
Isn't it true that there's 2 lanes coming out of North Poplar Fork right there? There's a turn lane, plus there's a lane.
Well,
that goes
there's no turn lane. It's just, it opens up a little bit, but there's a stop bar, I believe, and that's it. There's no marked lanes exiting, I don't believe, from North Poplar Fork to say turn.
Well, if you're turning and going south, I mean, you're turning into the lanes to start with.
But the angle of North Poplar heads toward the northeast. It's not exactly a perpendicular 90 degrees. It's angled. So I don't know if, I just want to make sure if somebody's, you have a turn in. I'm just saying if somebody's turning out with a trailer and a camper or whatever, that they can make the turn. That's all. The radius is there.
Yeah, that radius is pretty good sized radius.
I'm just saying.
Yeah, it's more than a standard radius coming out of there.
Okay.
But there are actually 2 lanes. I mean, the only thing else they could do is put a stripe down the road to signify, that there's actually, but there's cars coming out of there 2 at a time all the time.
Okay. I just want to make sure, this is
Okay.
my concern. That's it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mr. Harding, would you like to ask Mr. Lewis to come back up to address your question?
Yes, please.
Mr. Lewis, I'll remind you, you are still sworn in, so you're still under
Sure,
it.
absolutely. And to answer the obvious question, there, and I'm saying this in all honesty, there was no intention of leaving that out. We were attempting to show what we felt like was the worst-case scenario. More than happy to go back and do an analysis to show that turning radius coming out of there. And just so everybody knows, I know this doesn't mean a lot, but I've got some good country boy engineers that work for me that have fifth wheels and pull them, and so they understand how to get that. Jose can vouch for this. They have a lot of input on their sides because they currently own them and pull them. But there was no, and I mean, I could tell y'all I'm telling the truth, but I have to answer my maker at the end of my life. I'm telling you the truth. There was no ill intent. I was not asked by Camping World not to do that. We do these designs all over the country for them. We felt like it was a critical, that caught our eye because it was such a sharp turn back coming into that, out of that intersection, and we wanted to assure not difficulty for the same reasons. You know, we don't want it to become a difficult situation that's known for getting in and out of there with, camping trailers, or people getting off the interstate wanting to run by Camping World and get something. So,
Just so you understand, reason I have my question, this has been an issue in the past.
what's that? What has
It's been an issue in the past, of
things
pulling
being
out
omitted?
that road and turning south on 34.
Oh, that turn. I understand. Yes.
So
sir.
that's the only reason I brought it up.
Oh, no, fair enough. Yes, sir, I didn't know that. Okay, I understand. Well, it caught our eye, too, and being an engineer, I mean, my wife gets tired of driving and pointing things out to her all the time that I see, but that we did look at that specifically for that reason. And to your point, Mr. Stewart's, the coming out, the fact that you do have two lanes opening up that you can make a turn, but like I said, we can certainly show that.
Okay. Well, I'm sure
we do it
that,
all the time on car washes, all kinds of tighter turns than this with whatever kind of vehicles, so.
I'm sure if you ask the Department of Highways, they'll give you an answer.
Yes, and
about
we've
the
been in
radius there.
communication. We sent him our data on that, Mr. Bill Dorsey, I believe it is.
Yeah.
He looked it over, he's been out there. We had that actually specifically surveyed, mapped out accurately so
Okay.
that we had accurate data. That wasn't superimposed. We went out there and had it surveyed accurately so that we had in our CAD system, we could lay that out and do
Yeah.
the turning radius.
Yeah, I know Bill, he's a good man.
Yes, sir.
He's a good
Yes,
man.
sir. So,
He
but does
just- he
anyone else
hasn't given you an
have?
answer yet, though, right?
Sir?
He hasn't answered you about this
Yeah, he did answer us that he felt like. there was-
verbally.
No, he emailed that there was no need for a traffic study on that intersection or any other due to the volume of traffic or anything that he saw of concern from what we
He sent that
provided
to the
him.
planning commission,
Yes, sir.
and you may have read it. and I
We
didn't.
provided him,
Since I
we
was a
provided
minute
him
late.
the email in which he stated that, but
Yes, Mr. Harding, the quote is included in your packet.
His,
yes, sir,
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I believe so.
Um,
We had
it's-
supplied that because that was a particular concern to us. We wanted to know if they were going to, because we work with highway departments all over the country. And he took it in and took him a minute and he got back with us and that was his opinion, so.
okay, that
Yes,
answers
sir.
my question.
But I'm glad to answer anything else anyone has.
Does anybody have any other questions for Mr. Lewis? I have one, and I'm going to
Yes.
betray my ignorance of RVing.
Oh, that's okay.
When you say a fifth wheel, that's hauled with a dually truck? Is that
Or,
right?
I suppose, a heavy 3/4 ton. It's where you have the hitch in the bed of the truck. And
Okay.
it goosenecks over and hooks into it.
It's a large pickup truck, though. It's not a
Correct, absolutely.
vehicle.
No.
well, it's not I guess it could be a commercial vehicle, but it's not a semi-truck.
Oh, no. I mean, there may be people that pull them around the country with a semi, but I don't know. But typically, it's a pickup truck that you'd buy at any truck dealership that sells pickup trucks, so. That's
Thanks for that
correct.
clarification.
Sure, no problem.
Any other questions, Mr.
Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Harding, just for clarification, the quote that I read to you is located in attachment I. Yes, I. It came from Philip Lewis Engineering, and it is quoted from the Division of Highways in that correspondence.
Okay.
Any other members of the public wish to address the board? Yes, please, step up and be sworn in and then introduce yourself.
My name's Sherry McAllister,
Barry McAllister.
and I absolutely had no intentions of necessarily speaking, but since this came up in conversation, I would just like to say,
Wait a minute, I just swear you.
oh, I'm sorry.
Will you raise your right hand,
Yes.
please? Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
And put your hand down.
Oh, okay. So,
Start over.
okay. Again, I had no intention of actually speaking, but since the subject has been brought up, I've worked in the industry of RVs for 25 years in this county. If you look statistically at sales in the state of West Virginia, they're not going to be fifth wheels. They're going to be tag-alongs primarily, right? Bumper pulls. Sure, we all sell fifth wheels, but we probably sell more travel trailers than we do fifth wheels, and they're only getting bigger. My truck is a 3/4 ton Dodge that's about 24 foot long, right? If a fifth wheel's in the bed, then probably 4 to 6 feet of that fifth wheel is assumed by the space in my bed. But otherwise, you're looking at trailers that are sometimes, and it's not uncommon, 36, 37 foot long sometimes before they're ever even attached to the bumper of that truck. By the time you include the tongue on the front, the bumper at the rear, the length of the vehicle, right? So you're talking about trailers very often. I prefer the smaller ones in all honesty, but it's not uncommon that we see them hitting these longer lengths. And so if it is an issue of somebody trying to make a turn from that road to get back to the interstate, and we would assume that most of the traffic would be returning to the interstate, not coming to Winfield, but turning to get back on 64, you're going to be exiting that road, and in a half-ton, 3/4, dually, whatever, you're going to be taking up both lanes in order to get your trailer back onto that road and get yourself straight, and then you're going to be changing lanes if you're getting, if you're going to go toward Huntington to get your trailer back over, or then, cross the bridge. It's not that it's not feasible, but in terms of congestion and the amount of space that would be occupied, you're not going to have a choice. I think what the gentleman brought up is a very valid point, in that you're going to have to occupy both of those lanes to get yourself back out onto the road. So in clarification of what we're talking about, I mean, these are large items that by the time they're all combined and hooked up, you're just not going to have a choice but to occupy both of those lanes in order to get yourself straightened out and get back in traffic safely.
Basically, wouldn't be anything worse than a tractor trailer pulling out of there, correct? Tractor trailer have to do the same thing.
Well, but you're talking about how many times a day is this going to be happening? How many times a day, if we've got 5 service appointments a day with people entering and exiting our lot, we have deliveries, right? How many times a day is there going to be a truck sitting at the end of that road trying to make a left or right turn that is basically going to have to occupy both lanes of traffic?
Both lanes of traffic.
On what would be 34, in order to get back onto 64 going east or west. You're going to still have to be able to get out of that road safely with the traffic that, like his concern was his customers trying to leave Liberty Square, right? You're going to have to, this traffic will have to mesh. And so there is some consideration if we believe that there could be 100 customers a day on that lot and 30 of them could be towing.
Yeah. I see your point, because that light, you get a straight lane through on that light if there's a car in that one lane. But if it's in the south lane coming out, the light doesn't hold the traffic back.
Right, and North Poplar does not have a turning lane.
Yeah.
It kind of widens out, but
Yeah.
it does not have a designated.
Yeah.
And if it did, honestly, that person towing would have to take up,
Most of them do anyway.
most all of it, and maybe part
Yeah.
of the lane that wasn't really a turning lane, in order to get themselves in a position to where they could pull out successfully.
That sounds like a pretty easy fix for the
I'm sorry,
Department of
speaking your
Highways. That sounds like a pretty easy fix for the Department of Highways. They're halfway there now. They just need that other lane that's coming out of there. If somebody's in that lane, they need to hold the light.
In coming out of where?
Coming out of North Poplar Fork right now, when you come out, and the reason I know this, because I'm in Liberty Square all the time coming out, but if there's a car in the north lane, the light will change and hold all the traffic. So that car in the north lane can either go across or go around or something. But on the south lane coming out of North Poplar Fork, if there's a car coming out of there, the light doesn't change and hold the traffic. It sounds like they need to, if there's a car
Well,
in
and
either one
like
of
you
those lanes.
said, then maybe the option would be to potentially widen that whole section of road.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Either that, or if somebody comes up to that intersection, whether in the north side or south side,
Right,
hold a light.
yeah.
And that would be safer to start with. But yeah, I understand. I see what you're saying.
Does anyone have any additional questions for Ms. McAllister? Thank you, Ms. McAllister. Any other members of the public wish to address the board? Yes, sir.
Jeff Given.
Jeff Given.
Uh-huh.
Raise your right hand, please. You solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes. We live directly across from Liberty Square. We have the farm there. And I came with Dennis Powell, who's going to be right beside of this project, and Mr. Arvidsson, who's going to be on the other side of the AEP's project. What I'd like to speak to is an observation, we can do studies, but as an observation of the vehicles coming in and out of North Poplar Fork, and we've been there since 1956. So it's been widened out quite a bit. As of note, I know that there are 2 people that live up Poplar Fork that have 40-foot boats. They never have a problem. There are at least 2 semis per day that go to the nursing home. And there are probably 3 straight bed trucks in the 30-foot range that are not having any trouble whatsoever. And there's quite a few campers and trailers of people that live up that road, up Poplar Fork. There really has not been a problem because there's an arrow turn out of Liberty Square that gives the people coming out of there to go towards the interstate, and then there's a green light coming out of North Poplar Fork, and they just swing into the wide part and go right straight to the interstate. I've never seen an issue there, except people backed up trying to get a green light coming out in the rush time, first thing in the morning, and that's usually when there's an issue. But as far as the width coming out of there, I've never seen a problem. And living across the road there, I would probably see it. But we're all for it. As long as they're going to put up a flag, I'm good to go.
Mr. Gibbon, give me just one moment. Does anyone have any questions of Mr. Gibbon?
I got a statement to make, and I'm really, I expected the neighbors to come up and say, we don't want this. The neighbors are coming up and say, we want it, and here's why we should have it, and here's why it should work. I'm very impressed.
Any other questions or comments? Do you know how often the semi-trucks go to the nursing home? And I know you don't know with certainty, but how many times do you see them on a given day?
It seems like there's one in the morning that typically goes out, and there's usually one in the afternoon that goes out. It's Cisco, Standard Foods, and those type of smaller semis.
And based on your observations, those have had no trouble getting out of North Poplar to head back to the interstate?
No.
You said you're the farmer. There's a very pretty farm that you can see as you're on North Poplar. Is that you?
My parents
Personally?
live up front. My dad was going to come, but at 98, he decided he'd let me come.
Fair enough, fair enough. My point is, you're close enough that you can see these
We
vehicles
live
coming
right
in and
there
out.
where all this action's happening.
Okay, thank you, that's all I have. Does anybody have any other questions? Thank you, Mr. Gibbon.
Okay.
Any other members of the public wish to speak? All right, with that, I will close the public hearing. So now I would move that we adopt as our factual record the statement from the staff, the packet that has been provided to us electronically, as well as the statements of Mr. Lewis, Mr. Summers, Ms. McAllister, and Mr. Gibbon.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
4 ayes, that will be our factual record for consideration this evening. Any general discussion before we jump into the specific criteria? I would say that the most controversial thing that we've heard is whether this will impact traffic. And when I look at the packet that we have, we've been asked to approve this subject to the approval of a few state agencies, one of which is the Department of Highways, I believe, who is reviewing to see if there is an impact. We've also heard the testimony of a neighbor who sees large boats and semis pull out of there with issue. So that that doesn't give me too much concern since we have some clear evidence on the record tonight that traffic is not impacted by large, even 18-wheelers in and out of there. Does anybody have anything else that they thought was controversial that we should address before jumping into the individual criteria? With hearing none, what I propose we do is just go through each of the criteria. As we do it, consider whether it's true or false. If you believe any of the criteria are not met, you should vote no on the approval of the special permit. If you find that all of the criteria are met, you should vote yes. Why don't we just go through that and have a little bit of discussion on each one. The first is the use will not discourage the development or impair the value of the surrounding and adjacent land and use districts. Here, we have not heard any evidence that I've heard anyway, that there will be a negative impact on property. Mr. Lewis indicated that both in his statement as well as his testimony that he believes that it will not discourage it and may improve the property. Any further discussion on that point or any additional thoughts? The next criteria is the concentration and volume of vehicles in connection with the use will not be more dangerous or hazardous than the usual traffic of the use district. Does everyone feel that they've heard enough facts today, including the prolonged discussion we've had about traffic, to make a decision as to whether that criteria is met? The next criteria is the proposed use will not produce a negative impact upon the abutting or surrounding properties and zoning uses given the characteristics, size, location, intensity, and nature of the proposed use in any structure. For me, this seems met since the neighbors have come out in support of this project. Does anyone wish to discuss it, or does anyone feel that they need to discuss it more to determine whether they feel this criteria has been met? The next criteria, the location, extent, arrangement, and intensity of the proposed use is to be such that its operation will not be objectionable to adjacent and surrounding use by reason of noise, smoke, dust, odors, fumes, vibrations, or glare. I think much of this is minimized by the fact that they're not going to be doing mechanical work. Any further discussion or does anyone require any further discussion to make a decision as to whether this criteria has been met beyond the factual record? The next criteria, the use, arrangement of, and location of uses and structures must be compatible with the surrounding use uses and zones, or is capable of being made compatible through the imposition of conditions. Anybody have does everyone feel they have enough information from the factual record to make a decision on that criteria? The next criteria, the use and structure is not detrimental to the health, safety, and welfare of the locality involved. We've heard some information on that. It's included in our packet. Does anyone wish to discuss that in order to help them make a determination as to whether that criteria is met? The next criteria, the use and structures conform to the purpose, intent, and objectives of this zoning ordinance. Does anyone wish to discuss factual record with respect to this point, or to help them make a decision? The final criteria, proposed use is properly located in relation to an adopted master plan, general plan, land use plan, thoroughfare plan, or street plan, particularly in its relation to existing collection and local street systems and pedestrian circulation. Does anyone wish to further discuss the factual record to make a determination as to this final criteria? Does any additional discussion required of any member of the board? Does anyone wish to make a motion?
I make a motion that we accept the records, the special permit worksheet.
Mr. Stewarts, do you wish, there were two conditions, I think with the DEP and
Army Corps.
Army Corps.
I'm sorry, Army Corps.
The
Excuse me, it's DOH.
DOH. Thank you. DOH, is it DOH and DEP or just
Yes.
DOH? That's okay, that's what I thought. Do you wish to limit your motion to approve the special permit, or do you wish to condition your motion to approve the special permit upon approval from DEP and DOH?
Yes.
So a motion has been made to approve the special permit, subject to approval from the West Virginia DEP and West Virginia Department of Highways.
Second.
Motion's been seconded. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
With 4 ayes, the special permit will be granted.
Excuse me, what are you going to do about answers for these? Was Mr. Stewart's motion to accept the presentation and answers by the applicant, or was you going to go down individually on your own accord?
I understood Mr. Stewart's motion to be to approve the permit based upon everyone's determination following their review of the criteria.
Thank you, thank you.
Right.
I guess one question we can have for discussion to clarify that, since it was not clear, is when we were going through the criteria and discussing relevant facts, did anyone feel that the criteria were not met? Mr. Stewart, you didn't?
No.
Mr. Harding?
No.
Mr. Hodge?
No.
Mr. Parker? I think that clarifies the record on that. Okay. The next agenda item is citizen concerns.
Excuse me, we need the order.
Do we have an order?
Yes.
We do have an order. I'm going to write to approve the application.
I'll make a motion to approve the order and authorize the president to execute the order. Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Or with that, I'll sign. We'll note in the order that it's approved, subject to DEP and DOH approval. Item 6 on the agenda is citizen concerns. Are there citizen concerns? Item 7 is staff report.
Just a reminder, we will have our next scheduled meeting on April 7th to review the 5-star car wash special permit.
Is that a new 5-star car wash, or?
It's a revision
Okay.
to the original.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear. 5-star car wash revision, is that what we said?
Yeah, revision to the original 5-star car wash submitted.
Okay.
That's the one that we approved where Frank Armada's office used to be.
Yes.
Maybe showing my age with that reference.
Will it be at 7 o'clock? April 7th at 7?
April 7th, yeah, normal meeting.
Item 8 is unfinished business. Do we have any unfinished business? 9, do we have any new business? With that, I move to adjourn.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
With 4 ayes, we're adjourned. All right. Safe travels.
I don't have to worry about it.